Hi everybody. So if you're someone that struggles with nerves, you are not very confident at public speaking, or you might have to be chairing a meeting, or maybe you're running a course, or you're doing some in-person client facing workshop or event or whatever it might be, but you're feeling a bit nervous, then this YouTube video is for you. Essentially, everyone gets nervous, so you never need to feel that you're the only person in the room that is feeling nervous about doing public speaking. More often than not, it will take some practice, and the best thing to do is to practice many times before you have to make that speech, before you have to give that talk, before you're going to start doing some training or even having a conversation, or if you're chairing a meeting. Just practice in front of a mirror or however you wish to, or with maybe a friend or family, so that you can see how you're coming across and get that feedback from them. You might end up speaking too fast. And often when we do feel nervous, sometimes we can gabble away. So just take some breaths and pause, particularly when you've got to get across some important information. Having a little pause at the end of the sentence can really help, and it will slow you down. Also, sometimes it's okay to walk around. Some people are quite static when they're standing, and because they need to focus and concentrate. Personally, I do walk a little bit, I do move a little bit, and I try to make sure that my eye contact is going around the entire audience that I might be in front of. If I'm on a Zoom, obviously it's much easier, but you've got to be able to look across to people. Maybe you might need to know someone's name if you need to bring them into a conversation. Or if you're just doing a presentation, again, think about the pace that you are going at. Think about your tone of voice. Are you up and down? Are you quite sort of monosyllabic? But all of this basically comes down to practice, and you will get better at it. And those nerves will eventually go. And particularly if you're getting a good feel back from your audience, if you are doing it in person, if people are smiling back at you, good thing to do is always just to smile anyway, even if people don't feel are not very interested in what you have to say. I would also say that if you're doing any kind of training via Zoom and you've got clients, it's usually quite nice to ask people to have their cameras on. Some people don't like having their cameras on, but then it can feel very strange for you as a person giving that course or that piece of information when you've got no face to look at. It can be a little bit disconcerting, but be prepared for that. But it's always quite nice to have that sort of contact. So if that's one of your housekeeping rules, then make that suggestion at the beginning. For me, when I'm doing any kind of public speaking or I'm delivering a workshop, then I usually talk about confidentiality, especially if we're in person, and again, sometimes on the Zoom, and photography. Those are the 2 points that I focus on. And that's just like a reassuring way of sort of starting off your event, starting off your talk or your speech, whatever it is that you're delivering, by just setting some housekeeping rules, and everyone might sort of respect you a little bit more for doing that. And it's a nice way, it's a bit of an icebreaker. Another icebreaker could be, obviously, you're going to tell people a bit about yourself. You might want to have some hands up, some interaction. Again, that means that you're not doing so much talking. It also means that if you have got slides up, if you can have sort of, especially for in-person training, having some interaction, which is going to be interesting. So it's not just about people doing work and exercises, and that will also help you with your whole event. People going into breakout rooms, it can be quite fun when you're on Zoom or on MS Teams and doing training that way. That's quite common. And again, it's just about gauging how people are, but most people are quite okay with that sort of thing, and they're quite relaxed. And I suppose really one other point for me would be if it was a reasonably serious topic. So when I'm coaching people, it could be quite a serious topic. Maybe we're looking at a topic like loneliness or grief, for example. Then it might be helpful if people don't have their mobile phones on high volume, and just for some of that time they could be still on notification but maybe on silent. So we are listening to each other, and it's also quite respectful towards each other, particularly when we're sharing sort of potentially confidential information. Anyway, those are my sort of top tips. But at the end of the day, a few deep breaths, big smile, and just enjoy it. You have got nothing to lose.